I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we collectively gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Mississaugas of the New Credit, and the Anishinaabe people. Madam Clerk, the roll call.
All members of council are present, your worship, with the exception of Councillor Butler.
This meeting this evening is being live streamed on YouTube and also recorded for public viewing on the town's website following the meeting. This is somewhat historic in the sense that this is the first public meeting where we will have members of the public participating electronically in the public meeting portion of our meeting tonight. You may wish to put your view on gallery view by clicking the top right corner from speaker view, depending on the device you're using. I also ask that those who wish to participate be mindful of background noise for the duration of the meeting. And please also note that participating members of the public will remain in the virtual waiting room via telephone or electronically until they are called upon during the meeting. And when we get to the public meeting, I will be providing the background rules, at which time I will be handing the meeting to Councillor Lubberts to manage insofar as I have a pecuniary interest with respect to the subject matter of the public meeting. I did want to make comment very briefly. The big news today, of course, is that Niagara is being allowed to move to stage 2. That was announced by the Premier this afternoon at 1 o'clock. That means that there are a number of businesses and services that will be available for the public to take part in. It also means that I will now have to get my hair cut, which some people will say is a good thing, particularly my wife. But you know, this is all really a part and parcel of the efforts of the public at large to make sure that we followed the rules outlined by public health authorities and the government to make sure that we didn't spread the virus to others. And so we should all commend ourselves for the diligence that we have taken over the past 3 months now, almost, in making sure that we washed our hands regularly, avoided touching our face, maintained social distance, stayed at home if we weren't feeling well. And in the early stages, you recall, we stayed at home as a matter of course. And although we are allowed to gather now in larger numbers as of last Friday, the provincial government is still exercising caution and asking people to engage in large gatherings only if necessary. And when I say large, I mean 10 people. So we're a long way towards the end of this particular emergency, but we're not there yet. And so we have to maintain our diligence with respect to observing the health rules. But as we're going there, I just wanted to thank all of those who have participated in a major way, primarily the healthcare workers on the front line, the public health professionals, our first responders, and of course the essential workers who were required to work even in the early days when it was very dangerous for them to be doing so. We also want to encourage those locally to utilize our local businesses and make sure that to the extent that you can, patronize the local businesses because they have been suffering significantly over the past 3 months. Many have suffered serious financial concerns and will have difficulty moving forward. So let's be cautious, let's be prudent, let's be diligent. Let's make sure that as we go forward, we get to stage 3 and eventually we get to the end of this. So that's the big news for today. The second piece of news was that on July the 1st, Canada will be celebrating its 153rd birthday. This will be a Canada Day celebration like no other because we won't be able to go out and gather in large crowds. We won't see likely the large fireworks that we typically see. We won't be able to participate in parties, but there will be some virtual opportunities in Niagara. So I encourage everyone to take part in that and remember this as a special Canada Day going forward. That takes us to declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations? Councillor Noyes.
I have a pecuniary conflict of interest in 60-2020 and bylaw 61-2020. It regards the amending the Parks and Beaches bylaw. in regards to waiving parking fees for veterans, and my conflict is that the majority of my clients are veterans. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any others? Councillor Butler, welcome. Don't forget to unmute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I appreciate that. I do have a conflict of interest, and I'm fortunately can't find it right now, but it is with respect to West Wind Developments. Just trying to find it here. Oh, Tri-West, sorry. And West Wind Niagara Developments, 59-2020.
That's the bylaw.
Right, consideration of bylaws number 15.
All right, so that's one more bylaw that we can remove from the package when we get there. Is it Councillor Zanko? Do you have that?
I've got first and second reading of that, Your Worship. I'll remove them.
Okay, perfect. So yes, and so Councillor Butler, when we get to 59-2020, you'll have to hand the chair, because I see you have third and final reading for the bylaw package. And there are, yeah, okay, so we'll have to deal with that bylaw package piecemeal. Okay, are there any others? I have pecuniary interest with respect to the public meeting, 7A on our agenda, since Mr. Parazater has been a client of my law firm. And that means that PDS 26-2020, I also have a conflict with, because that is the report relative to the comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment requested. So both of those items will be handed to Councillor Lubberts to manage when we get there. If there are no other matters of pecuniary interest, I will move on then. There is a property rezoning application that's being postponed because of the magnitude of the application and some logistics relative to that. And that's the one with respect to the Town Line Road rezoning. But that then takes us to public meetings, and this will be our first digital electronic public meeting since the emergency began and in the history of the town, as I said. So this is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act, and the application is to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw relative to 986 Ridge Road North, which is owned by George Parazater. Purpose of the meeting is to obtain comments and input from residents relative to the application. And if you have something that you want to raise, this is your opportunity to do so. Later in the evening, council will be considering the staff report relative to this application. And any of you who wish to see that, simply stay with us and you can watch that meeting online. Members of council have been provided with all of the written comments received by the clerk prior to this meeting. And so they will be able to take those into consideration in dealing with the report. So now for the participation instructions, those participating online in the public meeting via Zoom will be asked to raise their virtual hand when they wish to speak. And you can do that if you're using a laptop computer or computer by clicking on participants in the bottom center of the screen, and then by clicking raise hand, which you will see in the bottom corner. On a mobile device, you can tap raise hand in the bottom left corner. You will then be brought into the meeting by staff. You can then unmute yourself and start your video by using the buttons on your screen. At that point, you will be able to address council, and members of council will have an opportunity to ask you questions for clarification if necessary. First, then, will be a brief presentation by a staff member to give council the outline of the application. And then Councillor Lubberts will be asking to hear from the applicant or the agent on behalf of the applicant, following which anyone who wishes to address council either in favor or opposed to the application will be given an opportunity to do so. So at this time, Councillor Lubberts, I'm going to ask you to assume the chair, and I'm going to uncamera myself, or whatever they call it, stop video for me. And so, Madam Clerk, perhaps you'll let me know when I can re-enter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop and Ms. Delawaria. Is that right? Yeah,
That's
could you
right.
please proceed with your presentation? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be sharing my screen now. An application for a minor zoning bylaw amendment has been submitted by George Parizada, the owner of 986 Ridge Road North. The purpose of this application is to facilitate a future severance application, which would allow creation of a new building lot and construction of a new single detached dwelling. The applicant is requesting to rezone lands to a site-specific rural residential zone. The site-specific provisions is requested for the reduced lot frontage of 20 meters for the new lot, which would front onto Burley Road North. The notification of this public meeting was provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act by placing a notice in the May 21st, 2020 edition of Fort Erie Post newspaper. Property owners within 120 meters of the subject area were also mailed a notice of a complete application and public meeting on May 25th, 2020. This is an aerial photograph of the subject land as well as the surrounding area. The subject lands are located south of Garrison Road between Ridge Road North and Burley Road North. The subject lands are in the rural residential area north of Ridgeway Thunder Bay neighborhood. This is an aerial image highlighting the subject lands. The surrounding area predominantly is single detached dwellings, and there is a horse barn which is located south of the subject lands. The subject lands are known as 986 Ridge Road, are designated rural residential in part and environmental conservation in part on Schedule A of Town's official plan. The official plan states the lands designated rural residential are intended for single detached dwelling, group homes, home occupation, and accessory building, primarily on large lots with sustainable private services, although municipal water services may be available in some location. Environmental conservation designation is intended to conserve and preserve the natural heritage features. The applicant is not proposing any development on the portion of the property designated environmental conservation. This proposal meets the general intent of the official plan. This slide displays the natural heritage feature in the area. The southerly portion of the property is identified as woodlands over 2 hectares in area on Schedule C of the official plan. The woodland would not be impacted by the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. The lands are currently zoned rural residential in part and environmental conservation overlay area in part, in accordance with the zoning bylaw 129/90. The rural residential zone permits single detached dwellings on the lot with a minimum lot area of 0.4 hectares and minimum lot frontage of 60 meters. The site-specific regulation is requested for the reduction in the minimum lot frontage provision of the bylaw. The applicant is not proposing any change to the environmental conservation overlay zone. This slide shows a development proposal. The proposed lot, part 1, provides a lot area of 1.2 hectares and a lot frontage of 20 meters. The remnant parcel provides a lot area of 5.5 hectares and a lot frontage of 30 meters. The applicant is requesting to rezone part 1 to a site-specific rural residential zone. The site-specific regulation is requested for a reduction in the minimum lot frontage to 20 meters. As part of the current application, staff is also recommending to recognize the undersized frontage of 30 meters for part 2. Lastly, the applicant is not proposing any changes to the environmental conservation overlay zone. A public open house meeting was held on June 1st, 2020 via Zoom and was attended by staff, applicant, and 3 area residents. The residents attending the meeting to obtain more information about the proposal. One resident inquired about the possibility of having a future road constructed on the subject lands. And when he was told that there would not be any future road constructed on the subject land, he was supportive of this application. Residents who attended the meeting were generally supportive of the proposal. So these are few pictures of the subject land. This is for Burley Road looking north. This is the existing driveway, which would be used for the new lot. This is looking south on Burley Road, looking north on Ridge Road, and looking south on Ridge Road. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Delwari. Does any member of council have any questions? Seeing none, I'll ask staff to please bring the applicant or agent to participate in the meeting.
Mr. Chair, I'm just going to bring in Mr. Darbison.
Who's that? I didn't hear you.
I'm bringing in Mr. Darbison. Mr. Darbison's the agent on the application.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And he's just unmuted himself. And we have.
Oh, there he is. Hello, Mr. Darbison.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. My name is Eldon Darbison. I'm with G. Douglas Valley Limited. We have been retained by Mr. Pearzader to prepare the planning justification report, which was submitted with the application. We've had an opportunity to review the staff report, which is in full support of the proposed amendment, and we don't have any comments to add. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any members of council have any questions? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, do we have any correspondence you received prior to the meeting to read into the minutes?
Chair, no, we don't.
None. And we'll move on. Are there any members of the public in the waiting room who wish to speak in favor of the application by raising their virtual hands?
So just a reminder, if you are in the waiting room and you wish to speak, you can click on participants on the bottom if you're joining us online, and you can raise your virtual hand. If you're joining by phone, you can click *9 and that will raise your virtual hand for us. I do see one hand coming up, Mr. Chair. I'm going to bring in a telephone call-in member of the public right now. Mr. Chair, he should be in now. You should be able to speak with this person.
Okay, caller number one, I guess we'll call it, right? Go ahead, please.
Chair, may we have name and address, please, for the record?
Yeah, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, hi, it's Frank DeLuca, 4341 Tillman Place, Niagara Falls, Ontario, L2E6P3.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thanks, member of council, for having this public meeting. I am using this as the fact-finding mission for our particular development, which would be right across the street at 1043 Ridge Road, which would be the 6 acres that really actually goes right around the Ridge Tavern. We are fully support of this application. Our concerns were only in regards to the environmental overlay, and Mr. Butler has been very kind to kind of give us some direction in regards to what we'd like to do for the future. And we like the application that it's severing off a piece to increase the tax base, and we will try to do the same on our property. It's a little bit different, but similar in nature, because we also share a significant part of the property that's an environmental overlay. So those are our comments. We're just concerned that these are lands that were farmed for generations and now have become natural heritage, natural environmental lands, which we would have questions for council in the future in regards to looking at the possibility of taking that environmental overlay, especially off this property. I did provide pictures of the property from the 1930s, and I have witnessed properties from same aerial photos from the 40s and 50s, and these were farmlands. They weren't environmental properties. So that's our comments. Thank you very much for having us, and we are fully supportive of the application.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And before you leave, is there any members of council that have any questions for the presenter? Seeing none, thank you very much. And Mr. Butler, do we have any other members of the public?
Mr. Chair, I'm not seeing any others with their hands up that I believe are here to attend.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any members of the public in the waiting room who wish to speak in opposition of the application by raising their virtual hand?
I'm seeing none, Mr. Chair.
You're seeing none? So I think from here we can declare this public meeting closed. Thank you, Mr. Butler. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll hand the chair back to Mayor Redekop.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lubberts. That then takes us to the regional councillors report. Good evening, Councillor Encina.
Good evening, Mayor Redekop, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to see everybody as well. And Mr. Mayor, that you're going to get a haircut, that's a good thing. Along with Mr. Councillor McDermott.
Maybe we can get a 2-for-1.
Councillors, you're already aware that the Niagara region is now moving into phase 2 of the reopening strategy. It's good to see that we're making some headway in the fight against COVID-19. And according to public health in the last 12 days, Niagara has seen only 20 new cases. And within those 12 days, 4 had 0. It's welcome news. And it's hoped that everyone continues to practice what we've learned over the last several months. And echoing what Mayor Redekop says, a thank you to everyone who's participated and who's helped out on the front lines. And also to you, to Mayor Redekop and councillors for your leadership and through staff that you've guided everybody through this. You should all get a pat on the back for that one. Well done. At the Public Works Committee meeting that is scheduled for tomorrow, the Blue Box program is going to be discussed. We have seen that the province wants to hand responsibility of this program back to the industry. The implementation of a new system has the new many policies and new procedures that still have yet to be established. As the province rolls out this new plan, the implementation is set to start somewhere between 2023 and 2025. The region will be looking for the implementation of the new Blue Box program to start hopefully in 2023. And by doing this, there's going to be millions of dollars saved in anticipation of starting this early. As a reminder, the new waste collection regulations are now set to come into play October 19th of this year. And as a reminder to everyone, the service levels have changed. It is the start of every other week garbage collection with the number of bags that have been doubled. The recycling organics will continue to be picked up every week. Diapers and waste from medical issues are to be collected weekly. But to employ this service, residents need to contact the region and make arrangements. A comprehensive communication strategy will be starting in this next month. So hopefully it's going to roll out to everyone. Niagara Regional Transit has done a great job working with and to protect its drivers and passengers. A bit of a heads up, it is hoping that it is anticipated that fares will be reinstated as of July 1st, COVID dependent. So they're hoping that everything's going to be back in line. An update on the new Gilmore Lodge. Tenders are issued hopefully in February of 2021, with construction set to begin in June 2021. The completion and the move date the completion and the move-in date have been set for October 2023. A special note, especially in the light of the coronavirus, the pandemic, our new facility will have infection control designs incorporated in it. It will be easier to isolate and treat residents while keeping staff and other residents safe. One noticeable feature that I really liked was the feature of the HVAC system that will be utilized. Each room will have its own draw of fresh air and exhaust back out. There are a few other issues or a few other things that are happening with Gilmore Lodge, and there are some other things that are being put in place to keep residents and staff safe. Unfortunately, it wasn't during this time period, but we'll go from there. I will end it at that, Your Worship, and if anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Encina. Do any members of council have any questions of the regional councillor? I see Councillor Butler, and then I'll go to Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Regional Councillor Encina. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit with respect to the safety measures that the region will be taking for safe transit July 1st.
From what I understand, it's the same thing as they have been doing with regards to the protection for the drivers, along with limiting the number of passengers. From what I understand, they're going to try, if they need to, have one bus follow behind the other in case there are too many people that want to get on. In the case where if they have to call in buses, they will, from what my understanding. In the specialized transit, it's still at the point where they're trying to limit where they go if places that were COVID threats per se. They are now going to expand that and hopefully will not have a problem with regards to that. But those are the safety. They have the sanitary, they're cleaning the buses regularly, routinely. They go, I believe they have that new modern thing that you put in and it flashes everything and everything is killed.
Okay, and will the cost of the fares remain at pre-COVID rates, or will they be discounted for the time being?
My understanding, it's going to be back to pre-COVID. I will confirm that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Through you to Councillor Encina. Councillor Encina, my question is, probably you can guess, is the stoplights at Netherby and Town Line. I know that they were starting and COVID-19 happened and everything kind of came to a stop. Is there any timeline when that is going to resume and hopefully be completed?
That I can find out tomorrow for you at our Public Works meeting. And I have been a thorn in their side, even though during this time frame, to get that done and to get it finished. I will have a definite answer for you by tomorrow, and I can send an email to you regarding that. And all councillors.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Encina. Any other inquiries of the regional councillor? If not, then that takes us to presentations and delegations. And again, this is the first occasion where we've received a digital electronic presentation. And I presume that Mr. Victor Muratori is present and available to speak to the request for a draft plan extension for Alliston Woods. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
It is an unusual world we live in these days. I was saying to Patrick here, 53 years of doing this, I never thought I would be doing it quite this way. But here we are, and first of all, thank you to your staff for arranging this, and a particular thanks to Aaron Butler, who spent 3/4 of an hour with us on Friday, familiarizing us on the procedures and everything else. First of all, you have staff's report, PDF 27/2020. I'll start by saying that we completely agree with the report. We have nothing to add to that. The reason for the request for delegation was really wanting to bring council up to date on the options that are talked about in the report. And I would particularly reference Appendix 4 to the report because it outlines the two options. We've come to a particular point in this matter, Mr. Mayor. It doesn't matter whether you're in Fort Erie, Toronto, New York, London, Paris, anywhere in the world, negotiations are carried out on the basis of commercial reasonableness. And commercial reasonableness depends on certain criteria. First of all, you have to be able to communicate. Secondly, you have to have a willingness to treat. And of course, that's a term used by the courts as the people in good faith sitting down and talking about what they're trying to negotiate. And thirdly, the pricing of what you're talking about has to be in the realm of supply and demand. And again, what is reasonable? We're in a situation, Mr. Mayor and members of council, where we don't, as much as we've tried, by the way, as you know, the last late fall, I appeared and promised and did go out and get a new appraisal prepared by an AACI in accordance with the criteria of the Appraisal Institute of Canada. We submitted an offer to purchase based on exactly that appraisal. We have heard nothing. There was no response, no thank you, no go away, nothing, zero. So we have, in effect, no communication, no indication that the person wants to treat about this matter. And the only indication, and just happened this past week, indication of a price, a potential price, not even a definitive price, was, and on the basis of $850,000 and an exchange of property. What property? No idea. But to give you the magnitude of what we're talking about, that $850,000 is more than 12 times the appraised value that the AACI appraiser reported. This is not commercial reasonableness. This is not, and not to take away anything from the person or the owner, he doesn't have to communicate if he doesn't want to. He doesn't have to treat if he doesn't want to, and he can name any price in the world he wants for his property. The problem is that as a person who has been sent, my client's been sent to try to deal with this matter, we can't. We simply cannot deal with this. It is impossible. We are put in an impossible situation here as to trying to make a deal on this parcel. So I'm here to tell you that my client, just on this issue, has already expended over $300,000 on option one, acquiring the parcel of land that fronts on Garrison Road, multiple engineering studies, legal costs. Yes, we do charge fees for what we do. We're over 300,000, he's over 300,000, and we are no further than we were in 2014. We're simply, we're beating our head against a brick wall. And I have to say to you, we have moved on. We've moved on to option number 2, because option number 1 is taking us nowhere. And now we are concentrating completely our efforts on option number 2. If in fact the owner of option 1 wants to come back and actually sit down and communicate, treat, and come up with a reasonable price, we're obviously sitting there waiting to do so. But we see no indication that that is likely to happen. So option 2, which is the acquisition of the adjoining property and a reconfiguration of the roadway as it will connect to Craft Road, is what we are now concentrating. We are having, as the report indicates, difficulty in that as well. Again, we're having a hard time finding the owners wanting to sit down and communicate. But we are still pursuing that, and we will continue to pursue that. But that's where we are, and I wanted to report to council because I wanted to be absolutely clear on what we are doing and not doing with respect to this matter. It's been extremely frustrating, I know, for the city, for the town. It's been extremely frustrating for our client. 6 years after the new draft plan approval, we haven't been able to move this matter forward in a definitive way. It's costly. It's a burden on anybody and everybody. So I wanted to make sure, and that's the reason why we requested delegation status to come in, and I wanted council to hear it from us rather than from anybody else.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muratori. Does your assistant want to put his oar in the water, or have you said it all?
I think we've said it all.
Okay, so I will ask if there are any members of council that have any questions with respect to your comments. Councillor Lubberts, and then Councillor Butler.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. So thank you very much for your presentation. And I think at the last time you were at the council meeting, there was questions raised as to why we weren't using Alliston Avenue as the entrance and exit from the subdivision. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the region that they would prefer not to use that?
My recollection, and I will repeat exactly what I said to you, but there were two, first of all, it was the preferred connection to make the connection to Craft Road out of your secondary plan. Your secondary plan provided for that as the preferred connection. But you're absolutely correct. Regional count of the region, Garrison Road being a regional road as well as a provincial highway, also thought that the connection at Craft Road was the best place for any new signalization. But you're right as well that the new Alliston Avenue can be constructed to full urban profile and make a connection with Garrison Road. Absolutely correct.
So being preferred doesn't mean that it's that's the only way that's preferred, but I'm hoping maybe the region will reconsider because they need to be a little more sympathetic to your situation. Now you're talking to two property owners and neither one of them are communicating back to you. Is that correct?
That's right, Councillor. It's a bit bizarre, quite frankly. I mean, it's actually unresponsive. There is absolutely no response. The first thing we've ever heard is from Sean Shirting of Remax that finally a figure appeared, an actual amount of $850,000. That's the first figure we've ever received. And of course, as I said,
That was for option one?
that's right. And an exchange of land.
Yeah, that 800,000, that was for option one?
That's for 850 for option one. That would be in addition to what our client has already paid to purchase the lot that actually fronts on Garrison Road. So we're $1.1 million, $1.2 million when at that point.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if you can answer this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Option one, when you had that appraised, what was your appraisal company? What did they come in with?
The appraisal was around just under $10 or so, under $70,000. It was appraised on the basis, we are obviously well aware of the dispute on the zoning bylaw between the town and the owner. The appraisal was conducted on the basis of the existing municipal zoning. In other words, not the current use, but rather the actual zoning that the municipality believes to be enforced. And of course, you have a court decision that confirms that.
All right, so my question is, you're prepared to purchase 938 Garrison Road. And
we're trying to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a real estate agent, so everybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know a little bit about property value. And when I look at that property, to me, it would seem that that property would be worth somewhere in the vicinity of the 300,000 mark, you know, given today's market.
Well,
So,
based on the property we acquired from Mr. Heron, yeah, I think that's not an unreasonable price.
yeah, 938, right? It would be around 300,000.
Yeah.
So you would be willing to spend the 300,000 on that. You can't come anywhere in the middle with option one?
Well, essentially, though, if you take a look at the configuration of the option two parcel, the way the roadway would work, it would swing to the west and come through the land we've already acquired. So it would have a remnant piece, an actual lot that would front on Garrison Road. So yes, you're right. The initial acquisition would be probably in that price range, but there would be land, valuable land left over, not needed for the roadway. So it's a different calculus here that has to be done in that transaction.
All right, and my last question here is, have you gone to the region and explained to the region your dilemma with these property owners not communicating, and maybe they'll be a little more sympathetic and allow Alliston Avenue to be used?
We have met with, as your planning staff will confirm because they were present, we have met with the region on 2 occasions. And yes, they're sympathetic about our situation. They want us to make an effort to try to secure option 2, but Alliston Avenue is a fallback position because in addition to Alliston Avenue, there's also Spears Road as well.
Yeah, I understand that, but you're in a pickle, right? You can't get these people to communicate with you. So is the region, are they saying that if you can't work anything out with option 1 and option 2, are they willing to work with you and let you use Alliston Avenue?
It was left open to come back and report, but we haven't even been able to make contact with the owners of option 2. But if in fact we find ourselves in exactly the same situation with the owner of option 2, then obviously we will go back to the region on that matter.
Yeah, because the way I see it here, you're not in this position just because of option 1 and option 2. The region is putting you in this same position as they are.
Yes, I mean, and of course, the unfortunate thing is that both of the owners of option 1 and option 2 know the position we've been put in. We're negotiating from a distinct disadvantage, let's put it this way.
Councillor Lubberts, anything further?
Yeah, no, that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you very
Councillor
much.
Butler.
I actually received my answers through that line of questioning, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop, to the presenter. I'm looking at option 2, the 938, and let's say you're successful with that. I'm being optimistic there. Will that be a lighted intersection then? Because it's a little off center, so to speak.
My understanding is from both conversations with your staff and the region, as they see it, that eventually it will be a signalized intersection as a continuation of Craft Road.
And if I can continue then, with it being off center, like it's not really going to be, you know, parallel to or adjacent, like you're not going to be able to go straight through from that piece of property to Craft Road, right?
No,
Like,
but no, I'm sorry, you probably don't have the drawings, but the property would swing, it would come through along the east, the west side of parcel 938, and it would turn into 948. In other words, there would be a slight curve in the road and then make the connection on a north-south basis directly with Craft Road.
okay, thank you.
Any other councillors? Mr. Muratori, so just to follow up with Councillor Lubberts' comments, you've asked for an extension, you're asking for an extension for 1 year.
Yes.
We gave you 6 months the last time you were here. This is now becoming a 20-year-old plan of subdivision with a modification 6 years ago. If you can't make, you're not making any headway, obviously, with the property behind 948. If you can't make any headway with 938, your position would be then Alliston Avenue. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, because there's access there. This is a roadway that is part, a road that's going to be constructed as part of the plan of subdivision. It is going to be a roadway. The connection can be made at Garrison. So that's the only option we have, quite frankly. That's the fallback option.
Because you would agree with me that there have to be at least 2 points of access and egress onto Garrison Road for this plan of subdivision to proceed. Spears Road and Alliston at least.
Yes, I mean, I'm not a traffic engineer, Mr. Mayor, but I would tend to think that that is the likely report that we would get from a traffic engineer.
Right. And so if you ran into resistance at the region and the council here was supportive of opening up Alliston Avenue to Garrison Road as your second point of access egress, that would be welcomed by you.
Yes, it would. Unquestionably, it would be welcome by us.
Because I want to tell you what I'm thinking, and I don't speak for anyone other than myself. After 20 years and all the changes and regulations that have occurred over that 20 years, I want to see this thing moving forward next year. I'm not all that inclined to be extending again after next May, because I think the solutions here have now become pretty finite. You can't deal with one person. You're trying to see if you can deal with another. If within a reasonable period of time that doesn't shake out, then I think we need to go to Alliston Avenue and see whether we can move forward on that. That's not really a question, and I apologize to my colleagues. We're supposed to be answering or asking questions, but I think you need to know where you stand as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Mayor, can I respond to that? Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, I think an extension for 1 year is not unreasonable. But I'd like to come back to council in 3 or 4 months and report to you, because essentially I see no reason to go for another full year while we fool around with this situation. It's costly for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's very wise, and I think members of council would be most anxious to hear how you're making out, to see how we can assist you with respect to this. I mean, this is a major development. It's been on the books for 2 decades, and I think we'd like to move it forward if we can. Okay.
I concur.
Any other councillors that have anything arising out of my questions? If not, then thank you very much, Mr. Moratori and Mr. Maloney. Nice to see you again, although from a distance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council. It's been a pleasure to be the first one in your historic situation. I'll put that in my resume.
Another first for Victor Moratori. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then that takes us to consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wishes removed from the consent agenda? If not, then Councillor Lubberts, I think you have the resolution for the consent agenda?
Yes. Thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that council approves the consent agenda items as recommended.
Are there any questions or comments with respect to any of the items in the consent agenda? Councillor Noyes and then Councillor McDermott.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. And on PDS 29/2020, and I did have a chance to talk to Mr. Walsh about this, and I am going to support this, but I'm just wanting to bring it, just comment on it, is that we're moving a project from 2026 to 2020. And I know that at our last council meeting, we actually put some projects that were on the table, we've kind of pushed them off and postponed them because of the COVID-19. And here's one project that's not due for 6 years. We're moving it forward when others have been pushed back. But I do understand, talking to Mr. Walsh, that where the funding is coming from, it's also very well described in that, and that if we don't approve this, then it's likely that the development will not happen, that it's unlikely that the developer will take on the cost himself for the improvement of Niagara Road. It would be something that we would have to do anyway in 2026. It's on our to-do list.
Thank you. Any other reports, Councillor Noyes, you wanted to address?
No.
Okay. Councillor McDermott. You have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute.
You did.
Okay, you with me now?
We're with you.
Okay,
all the
thank
way.
you. Just wanted to make a short comment on PDS 28/2020. This project has certainly brightened my day because we're moving forward with this again. Once this is all accomplished, it's going to increase the economy, certainly in the north end of town, which and it will be quite a benefit to not only my end of town, but to the whole of Port Erie. Certainly 900 dwellings and all those new residents will help us move forward in the revitalization down the line of the downtown. And I certainly appreciate the efforts that the developers putting forward.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Ms. Dolch, with respect to that report that Councillor McDermott just referred to, PDS 28, on page 27, the revisions to condition 69, it talks about deeply buried archaeological remains, resources, if they're found, all activities impacting archaeological resources must cease immediately. Notify the archaeology programs unit, but doesn't say who's to notify. And I'm thinking that maybe should be slightly reworded to something like the archaeology program unit of the Ontario Ministry of Health, blah, 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 is to be notified, and a licensed archaeologist is required. So I think you may want to take a look at that, just so that it's clear. Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, I have it in front of me. So notify the Archaeological Programs Unit of the Ontario Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries.
It really doesn't read well. I think to take the notify out and put it further back after the ministry, the reference to the ministry. So the archaeology programs unit, et cetera, is to be notified, and a licensed archaeologist is required. I think that would make more sense.
Okay.
I had another, just want some clarification with respect to the report that Councillor Noyes had referred to, PDS 29. So that the funding for this is going to be split between the municipality and the developer. Is that what I'm reading, or am I just being optimistic? Mr. Cookett, would you know that? Or is that Mr. Jansen?
Mr. Walsh or Mr. Jansen would take that.
Mr. Walsh, you can get a haircut too now.
My wife cut my hair Saturday. It's wonderful.
She used the lawnmower?
The dull hedge trimmers. The funding from this is split equally between our roads reserve and development charges.
So this change is needed because of the development of 28 units.
That's correct.
We're talking $1.6 million. So in the absence of that development, would this road be improved? Not until 2026.
In the absence of the development, the road would not be improved, period.
All right. And are we going to generate, sorry,
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
I don't know if you would know this answer, maybe Mr. Jansen. Are we going to generate enough development charges from this plan of subdivision to cover that redevelopment of that road?
This project is in the development charge study, and I don't know that we would ever really make a direct relationship with the fees contributed in a certain area, but certainly the costs of this were included in the study.
So if I look at page 4, which shows the worksheet relative to the costs and the breakdowns, it says in under need for project, the last sentence, town's portion being 50% of the storm sewer costs and 50% of the road reconstruction costs. Where's the other 50% coming from? Or are we talking about 50% levy, 50% development charges?
That's right. Yeah, the 50% is the other portion, is the town portion, the reserve from reserves, which is raised by the levy.
Does the developer have the responsibility of bringing up to full urban cross section Nye Road, at least on its side, the north side of Nye Road, for the length of the subdivision?
Karen, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, yes, they do have the responsibility along their frontage to upgrade to an urban cross section in that section. And if I can just elaborate, so this Nye Road upgrade is a DC project. We do have it in our schedule long-term to do the work. They're just looking to advance it for this subdivision at this time. They're just hoping for the budget amendment to do the design work at this point, and then come forward with a future budget amendment or a budget amendment to move it forward in 2021 for the full amount. But they will have some portion. We only pay the portion, whatever it comes out at, we only pay a certain portion of that. If it goes above what we have budgeted in our DC bylaw, we won't pay any further than the developers responsible for the remainder.
And the significance of condition 29, which is referred to in the report, which talks about the developer front ending the costs of the upgrade?
That's correct. They will front end the cost. The concern that they have is how long do they have to front end that cost for? And that's why the 2026 is just too far out for them to be reimbursed for the cost of that road reconstruction because of the big price tag associated with it. They're looking at if they can get that money a bit sooner. They did want some commitment from council, and they were hoping, like I said, 2021, but we did advise them that that would have to go forward at next year's budget deliberations.
So, and just further clarification, and I apologize for dragging this out, but Are they paying for the design work?
No, the design work's part of our DC amounts in that schedule. We're just pulling it out early. And that's what this request is for, just to pull out those design works as part of that project.
Right, and this is a draft plan of subdivision that was approved, I think, when I was the mayor before.
That's correct.
And now all of a sudden they want to move forward, so now they want this paid for. Okay, look, I'll support this because this is something that staff has obviously given a lot of thought to, and there is a subdivision agreement. Is there an agreement that's going to be entered into with respect to this?
Yes, there will be.
All right, so, I mean, I think it should be clear that that's great. This is a good subdivision. It's been approved by council. It's been through the whole process. But it's not the only plan of subdivision, and Nye Road isn't the only road that needs work because of development. So I think we need to keep that in mind, and I think the developer ought to be somewhat sensitive to that. Anyways, I'll support this. I did have one other question with respect to CS 11 for 2020, which deals with the capital variance report. And I note that there was about $17,500 in sidewalk work that hadn't been done in 2017, 2018. Is that something that we can put into a more fulsome sidewalk budget going forward, like this year or next year? Because we've identified the need for a lot of sidewalks in areas of town. And if we're not spending the money then, can we not get it out the door, get more sidewalks? I don't know, Jonathan, Mr. Jansen, whether you want to respond to that?
Sure. No, these funds will be returned to the reserve if you were to want to expand the existing sidewalk program. I would like Kelly to give an update on the status of that for the most recently approved one for 2020. We did have both a regular repair program as well as a new sidewalk budget for 2020, but we would typically not do that at this time, though.
Okay, so my recollection is we put an extra $100,000 into sidewalks for 2020. And is this another 30,000 that could be put into that as well, Mr. Walsh?
This year's program, as you know, is two parts. Our typical 200,000 is based on repair of the existing sidewalks to bring them up to a maintenance standard. Council did create and approve a separate project for $100,000 for construction of new sidewalks. We haven't identified where that money should go yet. We're still chewing through the active transportation master plan, and COVID has kind of put a wrench into everything right now. But we should be bringing a plan forward shortly for the construction of new sidewalks. I'll look to Kira on that. Chris Miller was supposed to bring that, but as council's aware, he's resigning, unfortunately, from the town. The money returned to reserves was from favorable unit prices. We did issue that contract close to the $200,000 limit, and we didn't spend that money.
Okay, well, perhaps this is something that could be discussed at IS. Councillor Noyes?
Yes, I have some more questions based on Mayor Redekop, your questions on PDS 29, 2020. And I wasn't on, I may or may not have been on council, I don't recall. Is the upgrade of Nye Road to urban cross section, was that a decision by the OMB, or was that already decided upon when the subdivision was agreed to many years ago? Or is that something?
Part of the subdivision agreement, Ms. Dolch?
That was part of the subdivision when it was approved in terms of, it was identified way back as a project. The difficulty with this subdivision was the curve. There was a sightline issue with the curve, and that was the result of some changes to that work, being a full urban cross section and fixing the sightlines of that curve as part of the Ontario Municipal Board hearing.
If I can continue, just again, yes. I'm reading the condition number 29, and perhaps I'm wishful thinking there. is that it basically, does it not say that the developer has to absorb the cost for creating the storm sewer, the curb and the gutter and the sidewalk? Or am I
Says
reading
that
more?
says the developer pays for the cost upfront, but then there's other mechanisms. And Ms. Dolch, maybe
Okay.
you could briefly explain that whole concept.
So you're looking in terms of Fort Erie Hills on condition 29.
Well, this is Nye Road. It's on page 2.
Yes, sorry, condition 29. So yes, so they're to front end the cost of that upgrade, but not, we have it in our background study, a certain budgeted amount. That money will go to them. The money we have budgeted already for the long-term future, our 10-year forecast. Anything else above and beyond that, they will be responsible for, but they just have to front end the cost. Rather than us give them the money in advance, they front end it and then get the money returned to them. And that's
Thank you.
what the condition talks about.
Does that money typically come from the development charges that are collected, or does it matter?
It comes from a number of development charges in the area. It's not just that subdivision. This is a 30-lot subdivision, so the cost of that road upgrade obviously wouldn't be covered by that just one subdivision.
Okay, are there any other questions by members of council for the consent agenda items? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That then takes us to reports, and Councillor, since we're now at Mr. Parazator's amendment, I'm gonna ask Councillor Lubberts to take over the chair, please. You have to unmute. You have to unmute, Councillor Lubberts. You have to unmute.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, you can hear me now. That brings us to report PDS 26-2020. Madam Clerk, does somebody have that resolution?
I do.
Councillor Zanko?
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Noyes, that council approves the amendment to the town's zoning bylaw number 129-90 as detailed in Appendix 3 of report number PDS 26-2020 for 986 Ridge Road North, and further that council authorizes staff to prepare the necessary bylaw.
That report is on the floor. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I just have one question. I don't know if Mr. Cookett or Ms. Dolch will want to comment on it, but in the past, we have had discussion, and I'm with the understanding that we had an agreement that if we had a public meeting on an issue, that we wouldn't bring the report forward the same evening. And it happened a while back, and we deferred the report. And here we are again. We had a public meeting a while ago, and now we're asked to approve the report in the same evening. I'm just wondering, why are we doing this? I thought we had an agreement.
Yeah, I'll jump in first, and Kara, you can add to it. This isn't typically what we do, and you're absolutely correct, Councillor. We wouldn't normally bring these on the same night. As you know, we're not in a typical situation. We're trying to play catch up with bringing reports and public meetings forward during this pandemic. So this being a non-controversial development, and we did have an open house, and basically it was supported by all. We didn't think there would be an issue bringing them both the same night. And you're absolutely correct. We don't typically do this, but trying to keep things moving, we thought we would in this particular situation.
And if I can just jump in. So we do have a minor zoning bylaw amendment fee. That minor fee allows us to go at the same time. Otherwise, we have to charge them the major fee for the application because we do have to write 2 reports. So normally what happens is we do advise them when they submit that we're going to consider it as minor, but should the public have concern or the council wish to defer it, which you did last time, then when they would be charged the full major amendment fee. But our hope is that we can kind of continue here and there when they're non-controversial, as Tom says, and especially in these times, that we can continue to treat those that are minor and have them move through the process a bit quicker and save the applicant some costs because they're non-controversial.
Okay, thank you. So at tonight's meeting, if somebody were to be opposed and they brought their concerns forward, if staff would have had to have gotten back to them later, then we would be advised to defer until the questions were answered. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. That's what we would recommend.
Okay.
And that's what our understanding was, that you would just defer it and we would come back with a second recommendation report should there. But most of the time we do find out if there's any opposition at the open house, but sometimes we do get surprised and then we would suggest you defer it.
Okay, all right. Any other members of council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? None opposed. That carries. I'll turn the chair back over to Mayor Redekop.
Thank you, Councillor Lubberts. That takes us into PDS 27, 2020, and Councillor Noyes, you have the resolution for that.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott, that PDS 27, 2020, extension of draft plan approval, Allison Woods, subdivision north of Garrison Road, east of Spears Road, 456941 Ontario Limited, Paul Silvestri. Owner, Canada Consultants William High Group Agent. That the council extend the draft plan approval for Allison Woods draft plan of subdivision located north of Garrison Road, east of Spears Road until May 5th, 2021. And the owner and the regional municipality of Niagara Planning and Development Services Department be so advised, and further that council directs the conditions of the approval for Allison Woods draft plan subdivision be amended as detailed in Appendix A to report number PDS 27, 2020, and further the council directs that written notification of the amended conditions is not required due to the minor nature of the change in accordance with section 51 in brackets 47 of the Planning Act.
Are there any questions or comments with respect to the report? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship. And just to rehash what you had mentioned earlier about the possibility of council making a request to the region to perhaps have Alliston Avenue and Spears Road used as an alternate. I would support that. From what I recall of the early days of the Spears High Point secondary plan process, and Ms. Dolch can correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe it was originally proposed that Alliston Avenue and Spears Road be used as an access point rather than Craft Road. And as part of that process and everything that moved along, it was eventually decided on to have a signalized intersection at Craft Road instead. And as much as I understand that that would be ideal, and I mean, I live in this area, I pull off of Spears Road every day. It can be quite challenging at times to make a left turn. But at the same time, when you hear how much money the proponent of this project has invested, I mean, you're talking $300,000. I would hate to see this, kind of go onto the back burner and disappear due to property acquisition issues. So certainly, Your Worship, if that's something you 3-4 months from now, I would support that. I'd like to see this project move forward. I think it would fill in some of our discontinuous urban area. I think it would be good for the municipality. And if there's anything we can do to get this sorted out in an agreeable way, I would support that. So thank you for your earlier comments, Your Worship, and I support them.
Thank you. And I think, Ms. Dolch, what we could do is simply monitor this, and in 3 months we can find out where the developer is moving in terms of any progress, and if none, then we can raise the issue again, and Mr. Muratori may want to come back and speak to us again.
Yes, we can do that. And there are some other steps that have to be taken should this, the arrangement with option 2 not work out. As I as you're aware about the secondary plan, we have identified Alliston Avenue to close and become part of a park. So we do have some changes to be made to the secondary plan. And I do, while I would like to say the region obviously ideally wants craft, as Mr. Muratori said, and I fully agree with that. That's their ideal solution. They may consider Alliston Avenue. The only concern I do have is when we spoke to them about some options previously, that if the developer has to open up this draft plan for modifications to the roadways, they will be looking at further environmental work by this group, and which could affect the remainder of the draft plan. So I do want to caution on that. I know we'll try to find solutions for it. We did come up with option 2 to come up with that solution to see if we can move that forward. And I'm hoping that, like I said, this can move forward, but we'll keep an eye on it and work with the region and Mr. Muratori.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Dolch. I understand what you're saying, and I'm sure that between you and the developer, you can sort that through. And I would think that the region wouldn't want to hold up a development that's apparently ready to move forward and simply can't because they're at an impasse under circumstances over which they have absolutely no control, and we actually do. And the region does as well. Okay, are there any other questions? Councillor Lubberts.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Just going back to Alliston, and I understand that, you know, there was some thoughts of maybe using that property for parkland, but, you know, it is a road allowance, and it was laid out as an allowance for road for future development. And this is the future development that came forward. So, and I get that everybody is trying to match up with Craft Road, but the developer is having a hard time trying to make that happen. And from what I can see, the region's not helping either. So I don't know that the two property owners on Garrison Road are at any more fault than the region for not allowing this project to move forward. So I think, I'm hoping that the region will look at it, and that road was laid out for an allowance for a road for future development in that area. And that's where we are. And if somebody wanted to change that in the past, well, they should have discussed that and maybe purchased the property before and moved that road allowance before, not after the fact.
I think the region will be the least of our concerns going forward.
I hope so.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor of the resolution? None opposed, that is carried. That then takes us to CS 10-2020. And Councillor Butler, you have that resolution.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott, that Council receives a report number CS 10-2020 regarding COVID-19 financial impacts, June update for information purposes, and further, that Council does not extend the grace period as detailed in bylaw number 40/2020.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Noyes.
My question is thank you, Mayor Redekop, in regard to the tax referral and relief and I know it's all pulled together. What about, is there the non-for-profit organizations that do own buildings and do pay taxes? I understand there's a $40,000 loan that's available through the government that I guess they have to pay that the businesses can access, and there is no interest on it, I think, for a year or 3 years or something. But is that $40,000 loan available to the non-for-profit organizations also?
Mr. Jansen, are you aware of that?
Through Mayor to Councillor Noyes, I believe it is. I do have an email I can go and search through and get back to you and forward on more of the information. I know our EDTS department was working on that program, but I can get back to you on it.
If I can continue, I'm specifically concerned with, and I'm sure there's more that other councillors may be worried about, is the Black Creek Community Center. it's not considered a business, and it doesn't really have any funding other than fundraising. And to my knowledge, they haven't been able to do any fundraising. So if organizations like the Black Creek Community Center, if they ask for a deferral, I would wonder if council can consider it if we pass this bylaw, or if there's any avenue that they would have if they're not entitled to borrowing the money of that $40,000 from the government.
I would have thought that that was, and Mr. Jansen, maybe you can comment on this. I would have thought that that would have been a common charge all of the property owners would be paying on a monthly basis. But I don't know, Mr. Jansen, do you know the answer to that?
There are a number of programs. We've highlighted just a few on page 2 with the bullets there. Some programs available to both private and nonprofit organizations. But specifically, if you're asking for whether or not as a nonprofit they would have any other specific recourse for deferral of taxes, I think the short answer is no. We are looking to the other levels of government to assist with cash flow issues. If they were a registered charity, then they would be entitled to be applying for the charitable rebate through the town. So that would help reduce their taxes to the lowest ratio if they're in any kind of a property that's a higher tax rate than residential. There is also vacancy rebates available if they haven't been using their facility for 90 days or more. So there are a few other existing programs, but in this case, there's nothing else. If it's a matter of not paying taxes, just to highlight, we did extend the tax due dates each by a month for the remaining tax due dates. So that would give them some additional time as well. But anything at this point otherwise would have to be considered on an individual basis. And we would just want to caution just the approach that it would need to be equitable. And that's why I think we're finding a lot of municipalities are trying to steer these programs through other orders of governments that are equipped to deal with those kinds of considerations, rather than municipalities looking one-off or creating new kinds of application-based programs. So that's it.
Councillor Noyes?
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. My understanding from the Black Creek Community Center, I didn't really have a chance to talk to anybody on the board yet. So it's basically for me reviewing this and thinking about them, is that they don't, from what I understand, they do not have a monthly charge for the residents. Every year there is a $25 per family membership. And usually the memberships are, they kind of stop you when you're at the Easter egg hunt or when you're at the Halloween party or whatever, reminding you about the membership, but they also have emails and everything else like that. So I'm not sure how successful they have been in getting the $25 per family for the membership. The other thing is they usually rent the halls out, which of course they can't do either. So if there's an issue, I'm sure they'll be approaching us and asking us. I just wanted to know, there's probably other organizations beside the Black Creek Community Center that may be in the same situation where their income is drastically reduced, and perhaps some of the options that Mr. Jansen has given, they can pursue and hopefully get them some revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the recommendations? None opposed. That is carried. That then takes us to motions. There are no motions. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Councillor Zanko, I'm sorry, Councillor, I see the clerk's hand up.
Yes, Your Worship, we have new businesses
Oh,
next.
sorry.
We have a motion under there, a resolution.
Sorry. Do I look like I'm trying to get out of here? Yes, sorry. We have new business and inquiries. And Councillor Noyes, that's your resolution.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Zanko. Federation of Canada Municipal Asset Management Program Grant Application 2020 Storm Sewer CCTV Inspection and Flushing Program. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Fort Erie direct staff to apply for a grant opportunity from the Federation of Canadian Municipal Asset Management Program for 2020 Storm Sewer CCTV Inspection and Flushing Program. Be it therefore resolved that the corporation of the town of Fort Erie commits to conducting the following activities in its proposed projects submitted to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program to advance our asset management program. Storm sewer CCTV inspection and flushing sewer and manholes in order to determine individual and overall network pipe conditions and aid in the development of more accurate short-term maintenance and long-term capital requirements. And in addition, the data gathered will inform our asset register and improve our level of service. Be it further resolved that the corporation of the town of Fort Erie commits $150,000 from its budget towards the cost of this initiative.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor of the resolution? None opposed, that is carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for helping me out there. We've gone through motions. We're at notice of motion. I see Councillor Zanko's hand up.
Well, actually, I have an inquiry. It might be
I'm
notice
sorry.
of motion, but
I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask through inquiry first, if that's okay.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
During our last council and committee meeting, I had mentioned that I wanted to bring back the bylaw that we changed with regard to declarations of pecuniary interest and councillors having to leave the chamber or essentially having to black out their screen.
Right.
I forgot to follow up with the clerk in this regard since our meeting, and I thought I was to bring this under notice of motion today, but I'm not too sure.
I think that's correct. Madam Clerk?
Yes, you would bring it up under notice of motion, and I happen to have here the recommendation that was approved that you're referring to that you wish to have reconsidered. So it would be recommendation number 18, considered and approved on March 9th, 2020, that bylaw number 36, 2016 be amended under section 7 by adding a subsection. I can read it out if you like, and then we can put that into the minutes as your notice of motion.
That would
That's
be
fine.
great.
So, yeah, okay. Was there anything further under new business and inquiries? And any other councillors have any? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have two questions. One is there a timeline where we're going to get the signage up at the various locations or points throughout the town of Fort Erie?
Mr. Walsh.
That contract is currently in production. We're expecting installation throughout the summer.
Okay. And then I just wonder, the second question is with respect to discussions that we had about passes for the beach and how many are allotted to residents. I received a couple of phone calls over the past couple of days, and while the short-term rental is allowed 4 passes, if I do not own a short-term rental and I'm a resident of Fort Erie and I live alone, I'm only entitled to 1 pass, not 4 passes. Is that correct?
That's not actually true. I think each household is entitled to 4. If you actually have more adults, that is children who are adults living in the home that exceeds 4, you could actually get more than 4. You don't need a pass for a child that's under 10. Is it 10 and under or under 10? Mr. Cookett?
It's under 10.
All right. So that, yeah, you could get more. And that's the same situation for a short-term rental owner. They can get 4, even though they don't live in their premises at all, but they do pay taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Your Worship, I wasn't actually done my inquiries. I didn't want to interrupt Councillor Butler, but
I'm sorry. Well, you please proceed. I'm learning as I'm learning on the job.
that's okay. My second inquiry was through you to Ms. Dolch. Ms. Dolch, given the announcement today regarding stage 2 and Niagara being able to participate in stage 2, has there been any policy discussions for restaurant owners to support or expedite patio expansions, just so we can kind of help them during this time?
Since this morning, actually. Ms. Dolch, I can just tell you that Carolee Grummett, Ms. Dolch, Mr. Cookett, probably others have been working on it, but Ms. Dolch, you can probably give the compendium of what you've been working on so far.
Yes, so there's a group of us, as the mayor indicated. We are pulling together, the group of us pulling together a new patio policy. Right now, we currently have a patio policy, but it's a little cumbersome at this point to get them up and running quickly. So we are working on something to make sure that they can be up and running quickly. We're looking at different models from different areas, and we're hoping if we can get something in place by next week sometime. It does take some time to get that rolling. Unfortunately, the government only gave us 4 days. So, you know, Carolee's group's working hard, trying to get it working, as well as Kelly Walsh's group and ourselves. We're all trying to get through as quickly as we can, but if we can get it sooner, we will.
This is something I should say that Ms. Grummett has been working on. The EDTS, Economic Development Services, has been working on, and they've identified, I believe it's 17 restaurants that have expressed an interest in taking advantage of a revised patio policy or temporary policy. Councillor Zanko, you had your hand up again?
Yeah, and I actually have just further to that point. So just so I'm understanding, would it be, so let's say a restaurant has an existing patio, but they have some space next to them that they could essentially expand temporarily. Would that still have to have a new policy for consideration, or could they be expedited approval for that?
Well, that would be fairly easy if they've already got the space. Our concerns would be primarily if they're looking at utilizing municipal property, whether it's a sidewalk or what have you,
right,
road or unopened road allowance. But yeah, that will all be taken into account, I presume, Ms. Dolch. The objective to make this as simple as possible because of the short duration.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything further you wanted to add, Ms. Dolch?
Just quickly, yeah, if it's in a parking lot, things like that, we obviously want to take care to make sure there's access points not too close to the public where they'll be sitting, things like that. So we will look at in the basic level of that kind of thing. But in terms of, the mayor was correct, our main interest is obviously municipal road allowances, things like that, but we will look at all of those aspects. In terms of somebody wanting to expand their patio, we have had a request recently to expand their patio just onto adjacent land that they own, not a parking lot or anything like that. We just did a quick review of a site plan to make sure they met the setbacks and they were on their way.
Anything further, Councillor Zanko?
Now, and I'm not a business owner with a patio, but is there something to do with the alcohol license and the number of people they can serve alcohol to on a patio?
There have been some regulations put out by the government with respect to that, and I think that they're simply facilitating the opportunity for the expansion of area because they're limiting the capacity of the existing buildings. So I believe that the ACGO is not really getting too engaged in this right now. Okay. Ms. Dolch, do you know anything further on that?
You're correct. They're not getting engaged, and with their liquor license, they're allowed, obviously, their indoor capacity plus 50%, usually from a zoning perspective on the patio. So in terms of their capacity, it's just kind of moving out to the patio area, and the AGCO isn't really, making them do a new application just to expand to the patio. They're kind of allowing them to move ahead.
Anything further?
Yes. Lastly, and I'm not sure who this inquiry should go to, whether it's Mr. Cookett or Mr. Jansen, but with regard to our Leisureplex and the Crystal Ridge Arena, I know that the province, obviously we're going into stage 2, hockey associations, figure skating, they have made some internal announcements from what I've been told that ice rentals will be up to the municipality at this point. So I have had some inquiries as to when we will be allowing ice rentals. And I'm just wondering if we've reviewed and discussed that because kids are starting to look towards practicing for hockey and skating.
Mr. Cookett?
Yeah, so we discussed that this morning as well, and there's contradicting information out there coming from the province. In one sense, it says that you can operate, but then they're saying no indoor sports. So Niagara Falls is getting a legal opinion on that. They're going to share it with all the municipalities. But and Mr. Walsh may want to jump in as well. We talked about opening up the ice for August, mid to late August. And I know Mr. Hutton has had a meeting today with the Hockey Association and putting that ice back in. There again, we would have to, you know, I know the Niagara Falls and Port is looking at opening their ice, or they have ice, so they're going to open it up once they have this opinion, but they're going to limit the number of people that can utilize the ice, again, keeping it to small groups. Kelly, Mr. Walsh, I don't know if you want to add anything. Mr. Hutton, I know he had a meeting today. I don't know if he was able to get back to you, or that meeting was taking place this evening.
So you said it all, Tom. Thanks.
So, you know, I mean, the obvious question you would ask, if they're going to be playing hockey, presumably they're going to be getting dressed and undressed before and after. The dressing rooms aren't all that large. If you were going to have any type of social distancing in them, you would limit the numbers right there. I don't know what you'd do with the showers, make sure that they go in one at a time. It's there are some logistical issues that need to be addressed, and I'm pretty confident that Mr. Hutton is right on top of it. Any other inquiries, Councillor Dubanow and then Councillor Lubberts?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And just to go a little further on the phase 2 reopening this Friday coming up. Obviously, I'm looking forward to that. I have my hair scheduled to be cut on Wednesday next week, and I'm really tired of looking like Tom Hanks in Castaway. But just to expand on that further, just from our discussion last week about the transparency on how these decisions are being made, I had saw some comments earlier today from Dr. Hergy on how, you know, hopefully we can get like a dashboard that shows where each region is and what the province's metrics are. And I certainly hope you guys at the region, through public health through the region, will continue to advocate for that, because it was a little confusing why, and I'm still confused by why we were held back, particularly when our medical officer of health thought, you know, based on his comments today, that we've been ready for this for a couple of weeks. But just to touch on something a little further, if I may, I had a constituent reach out to me last week regarding the uses of masks in the community, and just with regard to the motion that came up at council. You may know him. His name's Joe Kissman. He lives in Ward 2. He has some physical challenges with usage, and he was concerned with me about, as the reopening happens and as how the science has evolved, showing that you know, droplet containment can be used to prevent the spread of COVID-19. With his physical challenges, would he be denied entry to stores? And you know, obviously the medical officer of health has made some comments about that, but he wanted me to mention just how, you know, there are certain individuals out there who have challenges, who may not be able to use them. And, you know, he obviously concerned about judgment, about denial of services. So it's just my reminder to everyone that these are difficult times for everyone. Not everyone is in the same boat. Not everyone is in the same situation. So let's just continue to be kind to one another. I told Joe I'd mention this. He said he would be watching tonight. So hello, I wanted to share that with the community, because it was something he was very concerned about and he has brought up to me many times, and just wanted to share that. So thank you for the opportunity, Your Worship.
Councillor Lubberts.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Just to follow up on the patios with Ms. Dolch. If you have an existing patio, then you'll be able to open it on Friday, or are we waiting for, do we have to wait for the municipality to give everybody the okay?
No, if they have an existing patio, they're all right to use it because they've already been approved. This would be an expansion.
Yeah. Okay, all right, okay.
Anything further? Okay, so am I now okay to go to motions? And there are none. Notices of motion, Councillor Zanko.
Thank you. And Your Worship, if it's okay, if I could get the clerk to read my notice of motion.
All you need to do is give notice of motion that you are going to move to reconsider recommendation 18 at the meeting that was held on March something or other.
19th.
March 19th?
Mm-hmm.
March 9th.
Oh,
9th.
9th. Okay, sorry, I wrote it down wrong.
Right. And that's satisfactory. And then between now and the next regular council meeting, which would be July the
20th.
So this will be returnable July the 20th.
Okay, thank you.
Any other notices of motion? Okay. We finally got to consideration of bylaws, and there are 3 bylaws that need to be removed from the package. So Councillor Dubanow, I would ask you to proceed with first and second reading of the bylaw package, less 59, 60, and 61.
Yep, perfect, Your Worship. Got that all noted down here. So moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Zanko, that the bylaw package containing 55-2020 to authorize the entry into an extension agreement with 5017018 Ontario Inc., operating as Garrison Square Plaza, Units 1 and 2, 660 Garrison Road, 56-2020 to authorize the entry into a license agreement with the Niagara Parks Commission Riverwalk, 57-2020 to authorize the entry into an encroachment agreement with Dominic Pandolfino and George Saleh, 2297 Stellaland Park Road, 58-2020 to set the 2020 tax rates and to levy taxes for the year 2020 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That modified bylaw package is on the floor for any questions or comments. If there are none, then Councillor Butler, you have the resolution for third and final reading.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that bylaws number 55-2020, 56-2020, 57-2020, and 58-2020 are given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Dubanow, I would ask you to proceed with first and second reading for bylaws 60 and 61.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Zanko, that the bylaw package containing 60-2020 to amend Parks and Beaches bylaw number 119-03 as amended, waiver of parking fee for veterans, and 61-2020 to amend traffic bylaw number 2000-89 as amended, waiver of parking fees for veterans is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Butler, would you read third and final? I'm sorry. Those bylaws are on the floor for questions or comments. I'm feeling very alone here. Okay, Councillor Butler, third and final reading, please, for 60 and 61.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that bylaws 60-2020, 61-2020 are given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. And Councillor Dubanow, by dint of elimination, we're now down to 59.
Yes, we are, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Zanko, that bylaw 59-2020 to authorize the execution of an amending subdivision agreement with West Wind Niagara Developments Incorporated for Alfred Beam, the Oaks at 6 Mile Creek is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That bylaw is on the floor for any questions or comments. If none, can I have a mover for third and final reading of bylaw 59-2020, please? Somebody put your hand up. Councillor Zanko, Councillor McDermott, seconds. So they be given third and final reading. Are there any questions or comments about that bylaw? If none, all those in favor of third and final reading? None opposed, that is carried. You can come back, Councillor Butler. That then takes us to first and second reading of the confirmatory bylaw, and I believe Councillor McDermott, you have that resolution.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that bylaw number 62-2020 to confirm the actions of council at its council meeting held on June 15, 2020 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Zanko, you have third and final reading for the confirmatory bylaw.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dubanow, that bylaw number 62-2020 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Councillor Zanko?
Yes, we have a Planning and Development Services Subcommittee meeting on June the 24th at 5 p.m. and that's going to be held via Zoom meeting.
Are there any other meetings? Councillor Dubanow?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. The Fort Erie Public Library Board will be hosting a board meeting tomorrow at 4 p.m. And it will also be hosted over Zoom as well.
Thank you. Any others? Councillor Noyes?
There is a traffic coordinating committee meeting on June 24th at noon.
Is there an infrastructure services meeting coming up?
Right?
No?
I don't think so.
No, I don't see one here.
No.
Are there any other meetings? Councillor Butler? You have to unmute. You have to unmute.
Sorry. There is a Corporate and Community Services Subcommittee meeting on Wednesday, the 24th at 2:30 p.m.
Okay. And then I would point out that the State of the Region address is available online on Thursday, June the 18th, starting at 10:30. For any of you that are interested, it's free. If there are no other meetings scheduled, then I'm going to go to Councillor Dubanow and apparently my favorite resolution of the evening.
I think it's all of our favorite resolution, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Zanko, that council adjourns at 7:51 p.m. to reconvene into a regular meeting of council on July 20th, 2020.
All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much, all.